Markets are very flat.
Stocks mark time ahead of the release of minutes of the US FOMC meeting. Market breadth in neutral zone. FMCG and real estate stocks eke out some gains, while the financials and metals drag today.
The share sale momentum revives with Warburg Pincus offloading 3.5% stake in Apollo Tyres, and Coforge expected to raise over 2,200 crores via a QIP. Key foreign direct investors and Star Health Insurance are also likely to sell some equity via a block deal soon.
BHEL sulks on disappointing results despite the strong order flow and commentary, while Metropolis gains on beating the revenues and margin estimates. GSFC and VA Tech, Warburg are the other big movers on earnings today.
Stocks of HG Infra, PNC Infra and GR Infra climb after they win large expressway projects in Maharashtra, while a 402 megawatt order win sparks a sharp rally in Suzlon. SEBI puts out a flurry of notices with proposals to normalize the impact of rumors on stock prices used for securities actions, to permit tendering of ESOPs in buybacks, and to relax the minimum promoter contribution in IPOs. Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar. With me, as always, is Sonia Shenoy. So, Sonia, many macro factors that the market really has to deal with. Ahead of that, today, a flattish movement on the market. Yes. It's absolutely flat. You know, Nisha, the thing is that for the market, it's been... it's good that it's flat because we've had so much volatility, right? But last few days have been good. So the Nifty has actually picked up from the lows of 9th May that we saw, around 21,800 or so. The market is back at 22,500. So there's a good 500-600 point rally that we've seen in the last 5-6 days. So I think that's something that the market has definitely liked. Today is a bit of a consolidation, so no two ways about that. The Nifty is holding steady at that 22,560 mark. And if you're looking at the big gainers in trade, then, you know, let me just get that up for you on the screen. A lot of these stocks in the consumption space are topping the charts this afternoon, whether it's HUL, Tata Consumer, Britannia, Asian Paints, ITC. All these stocks are your big gainers. HUL, ITC, as you can see on the green line. And on the red side, it's banks. So banks are not looking that good. In fact, dragging its feet now, down almost about 1%. And the big losers include SBI, you have Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, and the likes. But let's begin Business Lunch with the top stories at this hour. The RBI's board will be meeting today to decide on the dividend to the government for FY24. Ritu is here with the details. Ritu, over to you.
There's a lot of speculation about just how much dividend the Reserve Bank of India is going to send to New Delhi, with a critical board meeting taking place today to approve the dividend transfer to the government. Now, the expectation is that RBI will likely transfer a higher dividend to the government in FY25 compared to the 87,416 crores that was transferred in the year before. And this is on the back of an expected higher interest income from foreign securities or bond holdings. Now, we're calling it dividend for FY25 because the transfer from RBI will be for FY24, but it is going to reflect in the government's accounts only for FY25. Now, the estimates range from 80 to 85,000 crore all the way to 1 lakh crores or higher, but the dividend is expected to be closer to the higher figure as per many economists because of the sharp rise in the interest earned by RBI through its foreign exchange assets, and that in turn can be attributed to the rate hikes undertaken by the US Federal Reserve in the last 2 years. Now, economists estimate that RBI's balance sheet also rose more than 11% in FY24 because of the increase in foreign currency assets, loans and advances to banks and gold reserves. Now, just last week, the RBI also announced a substantial reduction in the government's borrowing by about 60,000 crores, and additionally, the government also plans to prematurely repay some of its previous borrowings, and that has further added fuel to the speculation that the centre's financial position could be seeing some considerable improvements soon. The government has budgeted 1.02 lakh crores as dividend from RBI as well as the state-owned lenders in FY25, and this higher dividend from RBI is going to support the government's liquidity surplus and therefore expenditure as well going forward, although the government expenditure itself is only expected to pick up after the elections.
All right, thanks Ritu. And that RBI's board meet is going to be very, very important. From one regulator to the other, let's talk about market regulator SEBI now, which has announced a new framework for considering the unaffected price of transactions following the confirmation of market rumors. This is a big one. Yash Jain joins in with all the details on that. Tell us, Yash.
Well, as you correctly pointed out, market regulator SEBI has issued guidelines for managing stock price, from the impact of any market rumor in that context. Now, what SEBI has done is that it has introduced the concept of unaffected price to mitigate stock price fluctuation, particularly ahead of any corporate action, be it a QIB and OFS, which is expected in that particular company. Unaffected price determination will have to be done within 24 hours of material price movement, excluding the market rumor impact. Now, what's the purpose? Of course, it is to exclude any sort of price disruption caused by a rumor or a news report while arriving at a particular price for an acquisition or any corporate action in that particular company. What does the regulation say? Regulation requires listed companies to verify market rumors within 24 hours if there has been a material price movement in the share of that particular security. SEBI circular states that unaffected price, which will have to be determined, shall be considered for transactions provided that rumor on such transactions is verified or a company has taken a particular stance on it within 24 hours. What is unaffected price? It is the share price that would have existed if that market rumor would not have come out. How would this be calculated? Now, calculation of adjusted volume weighted average price will have to be considered when it comes to the unaffected price of any particular security. Just understand this with some numbers. For example, let's say if a stock is trading at 100 rupees, there is a news report which is released which takes the stock price to 105 on day one. The company clarifies its stance on that market rumor or the news report. The next day, the stock runs another 5 rupees, closes at about 110, which means the impact of the market rumor is about 10 rupees, which will have to be excluded from that price, and any corporate action, the reference price which will be taken, which will be on the basis of 100 rupees, which is the price which is the unaffected price, essentially not being impacted by the market rumor in any way.
Okay, thanks a lot, Yash, for that. We spoke to Sandeep Parekh of FinSec Law Advisors and Abhishek Dadu of Khaitan & Co. on what they made of this move. Listen in.
I don't think there are any challenges, except it's a little confusing to read for the first time, but I think it's fairly mathematical, and I think I really don't see much of a con in introducing, because I think it reduces the burden on companies who need to kind of price a QIB based on an artificial number. So it's kind of trying to remove that disruption which comes from that artificial number, and I think it's fair both on the investor and on the company.
I think what SEBI's done here is they found a perfect balance. They've actually incentivized the deal makers to go ahead and come out transparently to say that, look, yes, a deal is brewing, there is something in the mix, but at the same time, SEBI's guaranteed them price protection, which is really what they want. Because at the end of the day, no one has a concern in disclosing data. It's just that if the data results in the deal failing, that's the problem. And they've solved for that here. They said that from the date that you effectively have a price spike, which is on account of the market rumor, till the date after you verified the market rumor, your price is protected. You look at the price as on 1 day prior, and the same price sort of continues for a period of 60 days or 180 days, depending on the nature of or the stage of your transaction. So overall, I think it's a great move, and this will definitely help public M&A deals in India.
All right, so those are important views coming in. But Sonia, I must point out that eases the task of people like me who report on M&A and then price destruction takes place. And a lot of deal makers do complain that because of reports coming out, the price of the transaction has shifted and therefore may not be consummated because the last price on which the parties agreed has gone far. Okay. So this particular thing is getting getting addressed. But one fun thing to watch out for will be the clarification within 24 hours, because a lot of times it's strategically important to keep it in classified form. And the companies will also have to disclose what they are doing once a rumor is in the market. So there are two aspects that will have to be seen, but it eases the burden on M&A reporters like myself.
Okay,
right.
yeah.
And at this point, markets stable. Nifty 50 as flat as it can get. Bank Nifty is the spot of bother today, 0.8% down in trade. State Bank of India, HDFC Bank, these are the ones which are really losing ground. On the flip side, remember, from the pharma space, Cipla is the biggest gainer on Nifty 50, but in terms of the heavyweights, Reliance Industries is up 1.9%, and that is adding a lot of strength to Nifty 50 to stay afloat in the green zone. All right, with that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch, but we'll tell you why BHEL, Gulf Oil and GSFC are buzzing in trade on the other side. Stay tuned to Business Lunch.
Okay, let's look at some more stocks that are in the news this afternoon. Shares of BHEL slipped after reporting weak fourth quarter earnings. However, the management commentary was positive. Vamakshi joins in now with the highlights. Vamakshi, over to you.
Well, absolutely. BHEL reported a weak set of numbers. When we look at the revenue, the company reported a revenue of almost 8,260 odd crores. This has come in nearly 7% below what the street was expecting. The margins also have come in much below. The street was working with a number of 14% or so, and the margins have come at almost 8.8%. In fact, even on a year-on-year basis, margins have declined by almost 400 basis points. The EBITDA has come in nearly 43%, and net profit has come in nearly 41% below the street expectations. The receivables also continue to be elevated for this counter, standing at 8,010 crores, and this is mainly on account of long cycle orders that the company has. But on the positive side, the company reported very strong order inflow. Order inflow in the fourth quarter jumped up by almost 4 times YOY to 41,859 crores. In fact, with that, the company's order book also stood at a decadal high at almost 1.31 lakh crores. The commentary that came through from the management in the con call last evening was also quite positive. They believe that 12 to 15% revenue CAGR is expected in the medium term. The gross margins have been declining so far for the company, but that is expected to turn. In fact, they also see ordering of almost 10 gigawatt worth of ordering activity coming for the next couple of years. They also have nearly 80 train sets of Vande Bharat in their order book. The delivery is expected by June 2025, and revenue recognition is also expected to start then. So overall, when we look at the numbers, definitely a weak set. The management commentary, although, is quite positive, and the order book also looks quite strong. And in fact, we have a note coming in from Macquarie as well, and they are highlighting that the EBITDA margin weakness that the company has posted is in contrast to many other capital goods stocks that have actually managed to report a beat in as far as their margins are concerned. They also highlight that order inflow outlook is quite healthy, but because there are a lot of moving parts, long gestation, backlog nature also keeps them cautious as far as the margins are concerned. So given those factors, Macquarie has an underperformed call on BHEL, target price of 192 rupees per share.
All right, Vamakshi, thanks so much for all those details on BHEL. Let's shift to Gulf Oil Lubricants, and that trades in the green after reporting a strong set of Q4 FY24 earnings, whereas GSFC slumps in trade after company reports a weak Q4 performance. In fact, our colleague Sonal Bhutra is right here with all the earnings fine print and the analysis. Sonal, over to you.
Well, let me start with Gulf Oil because it was a strong set by the company this time around. Revenue growth of 10% in quarter 4. EBITDA was up 32%. Margins expanded by 200 basis points, leading to a profit growth of 40%. Even FY24 ended on a strong note. Revenues up 9.5%, EBITDA up 22%, and profits are up 33% to come in at 308 crore rupees. The company says they've been able to maintain the growth momentum in the year, with volume growth coming in at 2 times that of the industry level, and this
This was led by double-digit growth in the infra segment, mining and B2B segments as well. Growth was strong across all the segments except for OEM factory fill in the last quarter. So that is where some pressure came in for the company. For GSFC, the numbers are very weak because of the change in subsidy rates that impacted fertilizer sales for the company this time. Revenues down 17.5%, EBITDA down 94%, margins are just at 1%, profits down 89%. The caprolactam benzene spreads, that is the main product or the spread to look at for this company, that also declined on a YOY basis, though sequentially it has seen a recovery. But yes, weak set coming in from GSFC.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sonal, for that. Well, coming up on Business Lunch, over 21,000 women Anganwadi workers in Delhi share their election wish list. A special report when we return. Welcome back. Straight to some global developments today on Business Lunch, and important international update coming in on the West Asia conflict. Norway's Prime Minister says that his country is formally recognizing Palestine as a state, while the Irish government has also announced recognition of Palestine. Meanwhile, Spain is also expected to make an announcement to this effect today. Now, reacting to these developments, the Foreign Minister of Israel tweeted that Israeli ambassadors to both Ireland and Norway have been recalled for consultation. So, solidarity coming in for Palestine there. All right, well, the Anganwadi workers contribute to the early education, primary health care and nutrition of children and pregnant women in urban and rural India. But they're classified as volunteers, which means they get an honorarium and not a salary. In our ongoing series, Election Exchange, CNBC-TV18's Kiran Khatri reports that this is one status the over 21,000 women Anganwadi workers in Delhi want changed once the new government takes over. And that's just for starters.
Fifty-eight-year-old Asha Devi has been working at an Anganwadi center in Delhi's Ambedkar Nagar for 35 years. She started with an honorarium of 275 rupees a month and now gets about 12,720 rupees a month. But this is still much lower than the lowest minimum wage of 17,000 rupees per month prescribed for unskilled labour by the Delhi government's labour department. She will also not be eligible for a pension when she retires. All this is because Asha Devi and 21,000 other women like her who work in Delhi's Anganwadis are classified as volunteers and not government employees. This number includes Anganwadi helpers who get an honorarium of 6,810 rupees a month.
हमारी कुछ तो पेंशन होनी चाहिए जब गवर्नमेंट लोगों को, हम भी तो गवर्नमेंट के अंडर में ही आते हैं. अगर देश की रीढ़ है तो आंगनवाड़ी वर्कर है, लेकिन तनख्वाह के लिए आंगनवाड़ी वर्कर नहीं है.
वैसे भी काम करते हैं ना हम 8 घंटे, तो हमें क्यों नहीं दिया जा रहा सरकारी कर्मचारी का दर्जा? और सरकारी कर्मचारी का दर्जा भी चलो ठीक है, इनका थोड़ी लेट करते हैं, तो एटलीस्ट दिल्ली के अंदर मिनिमम वेज लागू है ना, तो वो तो हमें दें. हेल्पर की जॉब के लिए तुम पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट लड़की को ले तो क्या उसको बनता है कि वो 7,000 रुपये ले?
कम से कम 30,000 रुपये आप एक आंगनवाड़ी वर्कर को दो, 25,000 रुपये एक आंगनवाड़ी हेल्पर को दो. इसके अलावा जो बाकी बेनिफिट्स हैं, ESI है, PF है, पेंशन है, सर्दी गर्मियों की छुट्टियां हैं, मटर्निटी लीव है.
Since the Anganwadi scheme is a centrally sponsored scheme implemented through state governments, the honorarium is split between the centre and state. In February 2022, the AAP government hiked the honorarium in Delhi after Anganwadi workers went on strike. More recently, Women and Child Development Minister Smriti Irani informed the Lok Sabha that the centre had enhanced the monthly honorariums of workers under the Anganwadi scheme by 1,500 rupees and for helpers by 750 rupees effective October 2018. However, workers say the hike has still not come into effect. The Women and Child Development Ministry did not respond to CNBC-TV18's query on this matter. Many workers and helpers also say that they have not been paid even the old honorarium for the last 2 months.
दो उससे आता है ना, साइड से आता है ना, तो केंद्र का तो अभी आज जनवरी से आया ही नहीं है, और जो स्टेट का भी आ रहा है वो भी अभी हमारा मार्च अप्रैल का नहीं आया है.
Experts say the situation is becoming critical and it's time care economy workers who provide essential services in government programs be given their due.
Across the country, there are about 14 lakh Anganwadi workers, 14 lakh Anganwadi helpers, about 10 lakh ASHA workers. And if we add midday meal cooks and workers to it, that's another big chunk, about 25 lakh. What I can say is that the demands are definitely valid. It is an interest group that needs to be taken seriously.
The workers we spoke to say they hope their problems will be addressed once the next government is sworn in. So far, only one national party has even mentioned Anganwadi workers in their manifesto. The Congress has said that it will double the number of Anganwadi workers and their pay should it come to power. It also promised to ensure fair pay to boost women's labour force participation. The BJP's manifesto, however, does not mention Anganwadi workers specifically, though it does talk about other policies aimed at women's upliftment. For Delhi's Anganwadi workers and helpers, there's only hope that the new government will put their needs and demands at the top of the list. In New Delhi, Kiran Khatri.
All right, so let's get you more news from the union elections. Leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha and also the president of the Congress party, Mallikarjun Kharge, says that this is a difficult election for Prime Minister Modi and is confident of the INDIA bloc winning over 300 seats. Take a listen.
See, whatever Modi is telling, it is false. Whatever numbers he wanted to achieve, he achieved in 14 and 19 election. But in this election, it is very difficult to come to power. Why? Because he is losing South and even in North. Now, wherever we lost, we are gaining. Wherever he was in 0 or 1 or 2, there he is not getting increased seat. Congress definitely, our alliance members together will stop Modi coming to power. So we'll get more than 273. That is, when we are able to stop him, that itself is more than nearly 300 seats. So together I'm talking alliance, India alliance.
All right, with just 2 phases of polling to go, India is all set to elect the new government on the 4th of June. Watch how the Election Commission of India pulls all stops to make sure everyone gets to exercise their right. In History TV18 documentary Inked, the Great Indian Election, premiering tonight at 7 p.m. Here's a sneak peek.
India's general elections, the biggest democratic exercise on the planet, an event of epic scale and complexity, enabling citizens to choose the next national government that will lead the world's largest democracy for another term.
This is one of the largest peacetime activity of movement of man and material anywhere in the world. Indian elections, that's the miracle. Over 1 million polling stations and elections managed by 15 million persons. They are the real heroes who conduct the elections, unsung heroes. And who is the bigger hero? The voters. Celebrating it, enjoying it like a festival of democracy. This is one of the biggest binding force in the making of the country.
Across the 7th largest and arguably the most diverse country in the world, Indian voters, old and young, the privileged and the marginalized, hold up their ink-stained fingers with pride. Proof that they have chosen to become active stakeholders in the future of India. Making it all possible is the Election Commission of India. This is as much their story as it is of India's democracy.
Inked, the Great Indian Election, Premieres 22nd May, Wednesday, 7 p.m. on History TV18.
All right, on that note, it's completely curtains down on this edition of Business Lunch, but Midcap Radar comes up next. Thanks so much for tuning in.